John, I'll direct this next question to you first. This comes from our online audience, and I will try not to butcher this person's name, but it appears to be K. Patainen. The question is, earlier this year, a petroleum spill covered the Huron River in front of the Arboretum for many hours as it would flow down to Gallup Park. No one has been charged or fined for that spill. Do you have any thoughts on this Huron River petroleum spill?
Well, it all depends upon the particulars of how the spill was made and who did it. And I think it's worthwhile having a public investigation of this. I think fines for cleanup and perhaps some punitive fines for spilling possibly could be in order, but I don't think that this is a place we need to get involved in criminal sanctions. I'm sure that whoever released the oil did not do it intentionally, did not get out of bed that morning thinking, I know, I'll go release oil in the Huron River. So I think looking for how we prevent things like this in the future would be key, and having whoever spilled the oil reimburse the city for whatever costs were involved in cleaning it up would be important.
Okay. Newcombe?
I'd agree. Particulars of the situation would dictate the appropriate regulatory legal response if appropriate. Kay, if the question was broader related to the watershed in general and what is our environmental management of that system, I think it speaks to a livable city, a quality of life. Most successful cities have a river running through it, one that is protected, one that is appreciated, and frankly, one that's used. And what I see a lot happening with our river is it becomes a zero-sum game, where those that currently use it want it for their own direct benefit. I believe in protecting the river. I do believe that in the extraordinary instances where we find it necessary to dam the river, we better have a good reason to do it. I'm frustrated by the missed opportunities that I see. For example, the old Mishkan site, where it was a coal degasification site, very, very polluted site. We may have had the opportunity with using this dirt we're pulling out of the ground here for the parking deck to clean up that site. And it was a missed opportunity, not for any cause, just because people couldn't get their ducks in the row. Again, if you have a lot of dirt and you can do some good with it, don't let them sell it to the company that's selling it right back to us. That's just common sense.
Okay. Newcombe, next question to you first, and as long as we're on the Huron River, let's stay on the Huron River. Ask a question about the Argo Dam. Dam in or dam out?
I've looked at this issue a lot, and I must admit it was more out of curiosity because I am not a rower. I have canoed in the river, and I certainly go and like to run by the river. From what I know about dams, there's the asset part, the kind of boring, well, we better have enough money to maintain what we already have and replace it when we need to. But then there's also the environmental impact. I'm not sure we really know exactly what that is. I know we have some benefit that we've established. The rowers like to use it. People like the pond. But I'm not sure if the benefit equates with the cost. Again, damming rivers is an extraordinary measure. We're not getting clean electrons from it, and I know there's some technical reasons why we're not doing that, but it hasn't been explored in a while. We're not doing research on it. We're not cleaning up the land around it. The park that's directly north of it is also drastically polluted from when we put in the M14 interchange. If we're going to keep that dam, we need to do more with the benefit, and it's got to be more of a benefit for the cities. So I would say dam out, given the current situation.
Okay, John?
Well, I am a former rower and a current fisherman and canoeist, and so I have mixed feelings about the dam. Among the environmental impacts of that dam and all 97 dams that are on the Huron River is they're all built on the best spawning gravel in the river system. So having the dam there hurts fish populations and the health of the river, and it's annoying to have the portage around it. And it isn't necessarily a beautiful thing. On the other hand, to watch an 8 going up the river is a beautiful thing. I think having that opportunity so near downtown is an advantage for us. And I'm not sure that in spite of the fishing benefits we would accrue by removing it, that I'm ready to spend the money to remove the dam. When it's at the end of its natural life, I think we'd want to revisit that. But in the meantime, simply to maintain it, I think is probably what we ought to do.
Okay, John. Next question to you. If you are serving on City Council and a proposal comes to City Council for a city income tax, would you favor that or oppose it?
I am opposed to a city income tax. The city income tax would make it much lower cost to live outside the city than in the city. The principal reason people espouse an income tax is to get at income from the University of Michigan that it pays to its employees. And if we think of University of Michigan employees as being primarily highly paid physicians and law school faculty and business school faculty, well, we can really stick it to those people and they'll have to pay even though they live in Scioto Township. Among the people who are going to pay the tax, and most of the people who would pay the tax, are people like food service workers, x-ray technicians, janitors, and launderers who work at University Hospital. That's the majority of the people who work there. So we're going to tax people who live in Jackson or Whitmore Lake or Chelsea for the privilege of driving into Ann Arbor to work. As people and businesses in the city now cycle through their normal lifespans, we're going to find that people and companies who might consider moving into the city to replace them will discover that if they locate 8 minutes down Jackson Avenue, they save themselves a considerable amount of money compared to locating inside the city. So I think we have to keep our tax rates competitive, not necessarily equal, but they have to be competitive with the rates in the townships surrounding us. An income tax, in addition to, I think, being unfair to many of the people who don't use our city services and dangerous to our long-term health, sends the signal that we're no longer a real place. We can't support ourselves on our own revenues. We have to tax people who don't live here. I think that's the wrong signal to send. I think sooner or later, the university needs to make payments in lieu of taxes when it buys property in the city. Thank you.
I agree with some of your statements. I don't know if I agree with your last statement about U of M. I believe it sends a signal that council doesn't trust us. You can't cut your way to profitability. Any businessman knows that. And as a commercial real estate person, I can confirm half of the people that call me want to know exactly what side of the city limits they're on because of the taxes they're already paying and the specter of a city income tax. So when you talk about that, there is a direct response, even by mentioning it, about people that will choose to take the Ann Arbor address, take the Ann Arbor schools, but not pay this tax. Furthermore, it's discriminatory to renters and people of modest means. As John pointed out, the service workers. I rent with no intention of buying. Yes, my landlord's property taxes may go down with the city income tax, but my rent isn't defined by my cost to my landlord. My rent is defined by how close I am to the downtown. And while I'd love to put more money in my landlord's pocket because he's been good to me, I won't see any benefit. And so passing this along and putting it to people that would just like to see their property taxes go down is what I think is the coward's way out. We need more revenue. And we can either do it through increasing the value of our tax base by making the properties worth more, which in and of itself would create more opportunities to further segregate our town, build more properties, or find money that's already on the table. That's where we should be looking, but we can't cut our way out, and we can't take the coward's way out by putting an income tax in there and hoping that people won't ask us to do something more complex.
Okay. Newcombe, this next question, we begin with you. Should the enforcement of parking meters in downtown be extended beyond 6 p.m.?
Only if we offset the revenue generation and the commercial cost to our downtown businesses, customers, and employees with a appropriate amount of free time in the parking decks and affordable monthly parking passes for those that work downtown. The DDA parking plan is a very thought-out research document. And what I worry about is after this election, when they start worrying about the budget next year, they're going to push those meters up to 9 o'clock because they want to fill up the DDA's coffers so they can push the money into the general fund. Now, whether or not you think that's a good idea on principle, it does violate the current contract, and it does push the burden further on the people that work very hard to make our downtown as successful as it is. So I would not be in favor of extending the meters past to 9 o'clock without offsetting the revenue elsewhere. As the DDA mission is written and renewed by the city and our contract states, all money that we collect should be used in the advancement of the parking system. Any dime that we collect past that message is a tax, and we are not elected officials on the DDA, and we should not be using it. Pushing it to 9 is another safe way to not tick anybody off. Well, they are ticking people off, and they're creating a great burden on retailers that already work very hard to provide us with a great downtown that we enjoy.